mountains east, right? So that's a huge area, right? So that includes Boulder, that includes Denver, that includes Colorado Springs, everything all the way to the boundary of what is now pretty much Nebraska. So that's what was recognized when there was a lot of conflict starting to happen, was that this area would be reserved for the Cheyenne and Arapaho people as their reservation. So that was in 1851. After 1851, there began so many people to come into this area that the ability of the Cheyenne and Arapaho people to kind of preserve their area or even keep people out because of disease and the decimation of the buffalo, because the buffalo was starting to dwindle too, is because more people came into this area. They began to hunt buffalo for food just like everybody else, and that meant that, you know, what maybe the Cheyenne and Arapaho and the other people of the Plains region were able to balance became too heavy on one side, and the supply of buffalo began to go down, so people began to have a hard time eventually like finding ways to eat. And also a lot of the waterways were starting to be diverted by people moving into Denver. People moving into Denver began to dig ditches and canals and stuff like that in Denver because they were trying to like keep water going to their areas and stuff like that. So some of the water sources started to go down. Denver was growing very big. According to big at those times, not big by our standards, but we're talking like 5,000 people, which is very small, but at that time it was a big area. So Denver was continuing to grow, and what happened in this area was like a lot of the early homes were built out of pine. Like this used to be mostly a pine forest. Right now there are two different trees, and we'll talk about that as we're moving. They're mostly Doug fir and pine here. This right now is mostly a Doug fir forest because Doug fir grows faster, but pine actually used to be the predominant tree in this area, and that meant it had a different wildlife system that it sustained than exists right now, right? So there were different animals. There were different types of animals that lived here, different birds. They're still here, but in very much smaller numbers that were here. So the pines were cut down in mass in this whole area, and then the Doug fir, because it grows faster, kind of took over this area. So what you see now is a little bit